Mom chose stepdad's kids over me and kicked me out. Now I'm taking back what's mine. Mothers are supposed to be the one person in the world who will always stand by you. Through every struggle, every mistake, every challenge, they're supposed to have your back. But my mother? She made it very clear that I was nothing more than a temporary inconvenience. Because the moment she had a new family, she threw me away like I never mattered. And years later, when she came crawling back, expecting me to clean up her mess, I made sure she finally felt what it was like to be abandoned. I was raised by my mom alone. My dad was never in the picture. She told me he never wanted kids, so he walked away. She said she was fine with it. She didn't need him. For years, it was just the two of us. And while we weren't rich, we weren't struggling either. My mom had my grandparents' support. She finished school and got a decent job. We lived comfortably, just the two of us. Or at least, that's what I thought. Because once she met Harry, everything changed. Harry wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't abusive. He was just indifferent. We got along well enough, but I always felt like an afterthought. They dated for years and got married when I was about 8. At first, I tried to be happy for her. Maybe this meant she would feel more secure. Maybe this meant I'd finally have a real family. Maybe this meant I'd finally have a father figure. But I quickly realized this wasn't about building a family. This was about replacing me. For years after they got married, my mom had twins. Everything became about them. Every conversation, every moment, every decision. Suddenly, I wasn't part of the picture anymore. At first, I tried to be understanding. Babies are a lot of work. She was busy. Maybe she'd come back around once things settled. But instead, she started actively avoiding me. It was like having me around was a burden. Like I was an intruder in my own home. And then, 6 months after the twins were born, she sat me down with Harry. And that was the night they destroyed our relationship forever. "We need to talk," my mom said, voice cold, serious. Harry just sat beside her, arms crossed, silent. "We've been thinking about the future," she continued. "And we've realized we just can't keep supporting everyone in this house." My stomach dropped. "What are you saying?" I asked. She sighed, like this was hard for her. "We can't afford to take care of 3 kids. We need to focus on the twins." "But I'm your child too," I whispered. "You're older," she said, as if that was supposed to make it better. "You can figure things out. But the twins deserve a good start in life." Deserve. Not need. Not require. Just deserve. That was the moment I realized. She didn't see me as her child anymore. I was just an obstacle. I was 16. Legally, they couldn't kick me out. So instead, they just made it unbearable for me to stay. "You're old enough to get a job," she said. "You need to start thinking about your future." I offered to work part-time to help with money. She refused. She said the twins' future was more important. She said they needed the resources more than I did. She said it was better for everyone if I found another place to stay. And just like that, I was no longer part of the family. I packed my bags that night. I had nowhere to go. She didn't care. I tried to hold it together. "So that's it?" I asked, standing by the door. "You're just done with me?" She didn't even look upset. "You'll understand one day," she said. "No apology. No guilt. No hesitation. You'll thank me for this when you're older." I walked out of that house and never looked back. And for years, I built a life without her. I worked. I survived. I made something of myself. I became successful despite everything she did to me. And then, she came back. Not to apologize. Not because she regretted what she did, but because she wanted my money. And that was the moment I knew. She was finally going to feel what it was like to be abandoned. For years, I believed that one day, my mother would regret what she did. That she would wake up and realize she threw away her own child. That she would feel guilt, remorse, something. That she would try to make things right. But when she finally came back, it wasn't because she wanted me back in her life. It was because she wanted my money. And that was the moment I knew. She was finally going to feel what it was like to be abandoned. After she kicked me out, I had no choice but to survive on my own. I worked every job I could find. I scraped by, living paycheck to paycheck. I swore I would never depend on anyone again. And slowly, I built a life for myself. I worked my way through college. I got a stable job, saved money, and created something from nothing. I became everything she thought I wouldn't. And while she was living in her perfect little world with her real family, I was becoming successful without her. Then, one day, out of nowhere, she called me. And I knew instantly, she didn't reach out because she missed me. She reached out because she needed something. The number was unfamiliar. At first, I ignored it. Then came the voicemail. "Michelle, it's Mom. We need to talk. It's about your brother. Please call me back. It's important." I stared at my phone, completely unmoved. Oh, now I was her child again? Now she wanted to talk? After years of silence? I debated deleting the message, but curiosity won. So I called her back. And what she said was even more pathetic than I expected. Michelle, sweetheart, how have you been? I actually laughed. She hadn't spoken to me in years. And now she was pretending we were close? Get to the point, I said coldly. She sighed. It's about your brother. He just got accepted into college, but money is tight. There it was. She didn't call to reconnect. She called because she saw me as a walking ATM. And what does that have to do with me? I asked. She hesitated. She knew she couldn't just demand it outright. She had to manipulate me into feeling guilty first. Michelle, you know I've always wanted the best for all my kids. Oh, really? Then why did you throw one of them away? I just thought, maybe you could help out. You have a good job now, right? There it was. She wanted my money. The same woman who told me I was old enough to figure things out now wanted me to pay for her kids' education? I smiled. Because of this? This was the moment I had been waiting for. Let me get this straight, I said. You kicked me out because you couldn't afford to raise 3 kids. You told me the twins deserved a better future more than I did. And now, after years of silence, you suddenly need my help? She stammered, because she hadn't expected me to remember. Michelle, it was a difficult time. We all had to make sacrifices. We all? No. I was the only one who got sacrificed. Well, Mom, I said smoothly, I guess you'll understand when I say that money is tight for me too. Silence. She wasn't expecting that. But I had to figure things out, right? I'm sure my brother can do the same. And then I hung up, because for the first time, she got exactly what she gave me. Nothing. After that call, my family lost their minds. My mother tried calling again. I ignored her. Then my stepfather tried. Blocked. Then my brother himself texted me. I don't know what happened between you and Mom, but I need this. Please. I thought we were still family. I stared at the message. And I sent one final response. She made it clear years ago that I wasn't family. You should ask her for help, not me. And then I blocked his number too, because I was finally done. Since then, I haven't looked back. No more guilt. No more family drama. No more wondering if I did the right thing. Because I did. I built a life without them. I created my own success, my own happiness, my own future. And they are drowning in the mess they created. And my mother? She finally knows what it feels like to be abandoned. And that's a pain she'll never escape. For years, my mother treated me like I was replaceable. She discarded me when I became inconvenient. She made it clear I was not part of her real family. She thought she would never need me again. But now, she needed me more than ever. And I was the one who didn't need her. And that was the moment she realized. She had lost me forever. After I refused to pay for my brother's college, my mother lost her mind. She called me repeatedly. She sent long guilt-tripping texts. She even had other family members try to convince me. Mom, I raised you, Michelle. I gave you everything. And now, when I need you the most, you turn your back on me. Aunt Lisa, I don't know what happened, but your mom is really struggling. Can't you just help your brother out? Mom, you're being selfish. Family helps each other. I rolled my eyes. Oh, now I was part of the family. Now she wanted to act like she cared? Where was all this family love when she kicked me out as a teenager? I didn't respond. Because now, she was finally feeling what it was like to be ignored. When I refused to engage, my family's tone changed. Suddenly, I wasn't just selfish. I was cruel, cold-hearted, ungrateful. I was throwing away my family over something that happened years ago. My stepfather even tried to get involved. Harry, you're punishing your mother for doing what she had to do. She made a tough choice. A tough choice? She didn't have to throw me out. She chose to. She chose her new family over me. She chose to abandon me when I needed her most. So I sent him one single message. She made a choice back then. Now she has to live with it. Blocked. Because I was done being the family's punching bag. A few days later, I got an email from my mother. It was long, overly emotional. She talked about how hard things had been for her, how much she sacrificed, how much she struggled, how she wished we could move forward. And then, the real reason she wrote the email. I know I made mistakes, but I never stopped loving you. You have the ability to help. Please don't let your brother suffer because of our past. He's just a kid. He doesn't deserve this. Oh, so now it wasn't about her. It was about my brother? Now she wanted to guilt-trip me into thinking I was punishing him? I smirked, because I knew exactly what this was. She wasn't apologizing. She was just trying to manipulate me again. I took a deep breath and typed my response. You made it clear years ago that I wasn't your priority. You chose your real family over me. And now you need me? Now you suddenly remember I exist. No. You made your choice. Now live with it. Sent. Blocked. And for the first time ever, I felt completely free. After that, I assumed that was the end of it. I had shut them out. I had moved on. I was done. But then, I got a call from my cousin. Dude, you're not gonna believe what just happened. What? Your mom just posted a long Facebook rant about you. I laughed. Of course she did. Because when she couldn't guilt me privately, she tried to shame me publicly. I looked at the post. She painted herself as the victim, claimed she did her best as a mother, said she was heartbroken that I had turned my back on family. And the best part? She never mentioned the part where she kicked me out. She made it seem like I just abandoned her for no reason. And for a brief second, I wondered, should I comment? Should I expose her? Should I tell the whole truth? But then, I realized something. She wanted me to react. She wanted me to fight back so she could keep playing the victim. So instead, I did nothing. I let her scream into the void. Because she was already losing. She had no power over me anymore. And that was the real punishment. Since then, I haven't looked back. No more family drama. No more guilt. No more wasting time on people who never truly cared. Because for the first time, I was choosing myself. I was living for me. And they were stuck in the wreckage they created. They lost me. And now, they had to live with it. For years, my mother thought she could toss me aside like I was nothing. She believed she could erase me. She thought I would always be the disposable child. She never once considered that one day, she might need me. But now, she needed me more than ever. And I was the one who didn't need her. And for the first time, she had no control over me. After she posted her long, dramatic Facebook rant about me, the reactions were mixed. Some people blindly sided with her. Others asked why she wasn't telling the full story. And a few family members actually called her out. Cousin Jenna, you literally kicked Michelle out when she was 16. What did you expect? Uncle Rob, if she was such a terrible daughter, why are you begging her for money now? Aunt Lisa, maybe you should take responsibility for your actions instead of blaming your child. Oh, so it turns out, not everyone had forgotten what she did. And now, she was being called out publicly. And she hated it. The next day, I got a voicemail from her. She was livid. You had no right to turn people against me. I hadn't done anything. She had exposed herself. Do you know how embarrassing this is for me? Oh, so now she cared about embarrassment? Not when she was throwing me out. I was just trying to do what was best for our family. Oh, so best for the family meant abandoning her firstborn child. And then came the best part. I hope you're happy, Michelle. You've ruined me. I listened to it twice. Then, I deleted it. No response. No reaction. No engagement. Because I was done letting her manipulate me. And she was realizing she had no more power over me. Over the next few weeks, my cousin kept me updated. The Facebook post backfired. Family members started distancing themselves from her. Her perfect image was officially crumbling. And the best part? My stepfather, Harry, was furious. Apparently, he had no idea she was going behind his back to ask me for money. They started fighting. The cracks in their marriage started showing. And suddenly, my mother wasn't just losing me. She was losing everything. And me? I was living my best life, completely unbothered. A few weeks later, my phone buzzed again. Mom, Michelle, I know we've had our differences, but please, just talk to me. Oh, so now she was pretending to be reasonable? Now she was acting like we just had a small misunderstanding? Mom, I don't want things to end like this. Can't we just be a family again? I smirked. Because after all this time, she still didn't get it. She wasn't reaching out because she regretted what she did. She was reaching out because she had no one left. And that was her real punishment. I sent her one final message. You made it clear years ago that I wasn't part of your family. I moved on. You should too. Then, I blocked her. For good this time. No more second chances. No more guilt. No more waiting for her to be the mother she never was. Because I had finally learned. Some people don't deserve a place in your life. No matter how much they beg. Since that day, I haven't heard from her again. No calls. No messages. No more fake apologies. And honestly, I have never been happier. I have a career, my own place, a life full of people who actually care about me. And she is stuck in the mess she created. She lost her daughter. And now, she has to live with it. And that is a pain she'll never escape. For years, my mother acted like I was nothing. She replaced me. She abandoned me. She made it clear I wasn't part of her real family. But now, she was realizing that the only disposable person in this story was her. Because while she was drowning in the consequences of her own actions, I was thriving. After my final message, I cut all contact. No calls, no texts, no reaction to her Facebook drama. And for the first time in her life, she had no control over me. And she hated it. My cousin kept me updated. Your mom has been calling everyone, trying to get them to talk to you. She's acting like she's the victim, like you abandoned her in her time of need. But honestly, most of the family is sick of her crap. Oh, so now she was the one being ignored? Now she was the one being abandoned? Interesting. Turns out, my stepfather was furious. He had no idea how much she was begging me for money. He was embarrassed by her public meltdown. And now, their marriage was falling apart. And the best part? She had done it all to herself. Because while she was so focused on getting money from me, she didn't see her perfect family crumbling in front of her. And when her husband finally had enough and left her, she had no one, no support, no money, no backup plan. And for the first time in her life, she knew what it felt like to be discarded. One day, my cousin called me. Michelle, your mom lost the house. Oh, so now she was the one getting kicked out? Now she had to figure things out on her own? I took a sip of my coffee. Damn, that sucks. That's all you have to say? I shrugged. She figured I could survive on my own at 16. I'm sure she'll be fine now. My cousin laughed, because even they knew she had it coming. A few weeks later, I got one final email from her. Michelle, I know things have been rough between us, but I need you now more than ever. Please. I lost everything. I have nowhere to go. Can't we just start over? You're my daughter. I love you. Please don't leave me like this. I stared at the screen, because for the first time, she was feeling exactly what she made me feel all those years ago. She was begging to be let back in. She was desperate for someone to help her. She was realizing that she had lost her family. And me? I wasn't interested. I sent one last response. You had a daughter once. You threw her away. Now, she's doing just fine without you. I moved on. You should too. Then, I blocked her for the last time. No second chances. No more fake apologies. Because I was done for good. Since then, I haven't looked back. No family drama. No more guilt. No more waiting for love that never existed. I built my own life. I surrounded myself with people who actually cared. I found happiness without her. And her? She'll have to live with the fact that she lost me forever. She thought she could abandon me and never face the consequences. But now, she's the one left behind. And that's the real punishment. For years, my mother thought she could erase me. She replaced me with her new family. She kicked me out like I was nothing. She convinced herself that she would never need me again. But now, she was alone. No husband. No home. No money. And me? I was the one who had everything she wanted. And for the first time, she had to live with the consequences of her own choices. After I blocked my mother for good, I thought that was the end of it. But instead, my family tried one last time. Aunt Lisa, Michelle, I know your mom made mistakes, but she's struggling. Can't you just help her get back on her feet? Cousin Jenna, she's your mother. You're really just going to let her suffer? Uncle Rob, we all have family drama, but you don't just cut off your own mom. Be the bigger person. Oh, so now I was supposed to care? Now I was supposed to be the bigger person after she spent years pretending I didn't exist? I sighed. She made it clear that I wasn't part of her family. Now, I'm just respecting her decision. Blocked. I wasn't falling for their guilt trips. Not now. Not ever. A few months later, I got another call from my cousin. Michelle, you're not going to believe this. What? Your mom is trying to reach out to your dad. Oh, the same dad she claimed never wanted me all those years ago? The man she told me abandoned us? Now she was trying to reconnect with him? I laughed, because it turns out she had lied about him all along. He never abandoned me. She pushed him away and made sure I never knew him. And now, she was crawling back to him because she had no one else. And he wanted nothing to do with her. The irony was too good. For years, I believed my dad was a deadbeat. That he left and never looked back. That he didn't want me. That I was unwanted by both parents. But after hearing that my mother was begging him for help, I got curious. I decided to track him down. And when I finally spoke to him, everything I thought I knew was a lie. He never wanted to leave. My mother pushed him away. She refused to let him see me and convinced me he didn't care. And now, years later, she was the one being ignored by him. She was realizing that the person she tried to destroy was the only one left who could have helped her. And neither of us wanted anything to do with her. A few weeks later, my cousin sent me a final update. My mother was completely alone. No friends. No husband. No money. And no family willing to help her. She had finally lost everything. And me? I was thriving. I had a relationship with my dad. I had people in my life who actually cared. I had built a future where I was valued. And my mother? She had to live with the fact that she had no one to blame but herself. Since then, I haven't looked back. No more guilt. No more waiting for an apology that will never come. No more wondering if I did the right thing. Because I did. I built a life without her. I surrounded myself with people who actually care about me. I found happiness without her. And her? She will spend the rest of her life knowing that she lost me forever. That I was the child she threw away. And that I was the one who truly won in the end. And that was the best revenge. For years, I thought I needed her approval. That if I just tried harder, she would finally love me. That if I just kept the peace, she would finally see my worth. That if I just stayed quiet, she would finally include me. But now, I know the truth. I was never the problem. She was just the wrong person for me. And I am so much better off without her. One day, I was out with friends when someone casually mentioned my mother. Your mom still talks about you, you know. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, yeah. She keeps saying she hopes you'll come to your senses and come home. I laughed. Because even after everything she did, even after she threw me away for her new family, even after choosing the wrong people over me, she still thought I'd come back like nothing happened. She still thought she could erase the past. She still thought she had control over me. But I was long gone. Since then, I've built a life that is completely mine. I spend time with people who actually care about me. I focus on my goals, my dreams, and my happiness. I never waste another second chasing after someone who never truly valued me. And my mother? She'll never get to be part of this version of me. She lost her chance. She lost her daughter. People always say you should forgive and forget. But I realized something. Forgiveness isn't about letting them back in. It's about moving on without them. And that's exactly what I did. No anger. No bitterness. Just a life she can never touch. Because in the end, she thought she could push me aside. But I was the one who left her behind. And that was the real victory.